I'm sure that you heard the term custom matrices in Google Analytics, but the question is, have you tried using them? In this video, I'll explain what are custom matrices, how to configure them for Google Analytics, and also I'll share one use case on why this is helpful. So let's get started. Before going through the process and defining what is a custom metric, let's first define what is a metric, and the answer is pretty straightforward. So the metric is anything that contains a numeric value. That can be a number of purchases, purchase revenue, and many more. Google Analytics by default comes with a set of dimensions and matrices, such as the number of purchases, purchase revenue, and many more. In some cases, you will need to have a custom metric. So that's why we call it a custom, because it's not defined in GA4 by default. We define that metric and configure it to work through Google Tag Manager. So let me give you an example on how this looks like. Let's say you have an e-commerce website and you have a feature that enables users to add a specific products to the wish list instead of adding it to the cart. GA4 doesn't have pre-pull dimensions or matrices for that specific board. They do not have something for the add wish list that is supported natively, and you wouldn't be able to have any metric or dimension for the add to wish list as of now, Jan 2025. So in this scenario, we would need to configure a custom metric through Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics so we can see these numbers. I know that it might sound a bit complicated, but it's not complicated at all. In this short video, I'll show you how to configure it through Google Analytics and also implement it through Google Tag Manager. So let's go ahead and start with the configuration details. Let's start by opening the GA4 property and heading to the admin section. Scroll down and hit the custom definitions tab from the data display menu. In this section, we can create a custom dimensions, custom metrics, or calculated matrices. For this video, we're focusing on the custom matrices. So let's click on the Create Custom Metric tab. When this menu opens, we will have several fields. So the first field is the metric name, and this is the metric name that will be visible inside the reporting. So for example, if we are doing the add to wish list metric, we should type here add to wish list, as this is the name that we will find in our reports. The scope, currently there is no option to change that, and it is set to event scope by default. We can also add a description to this custom metric, so your other team members have some context about what is this custom metric and when it fires. For example, we can type fires when a user adds any item to their wish list. Event parameter, let's type here add underscore to underscore wish list, and I'll explain what is this event parameter and where should we add this value. But as a rule of thumb, this is what we use inside Google Tag Manager. So we basically tell Google Tag Manager to send a parameter with this add to wish list and assign a specific value to it whenever an event fires. Now for the unit of measurement, we will do standard, as we want to fire one event count whenever the event is fired. It's not a currency or anything else, but we can also choose one of these values if needed. For our case, we will go ahead with the standard, which is the generic numeric values. Let's copy this and hit save. What we have just done is basically defining the custom metric inside GA4, and now we need to configure it to work through Google Tag Manager. So let's head to Google Tag Manager and continue with the configuration steps. I'm in my Google Tag Manager container where I have this tag that fires an event when a user adds an item to the wish list. So let's click on that event or that tag, expand the tag details, and expand the events parameter section. Add a parameter. In this parameter section, we will need to paste the event parameter that we have just inputted in the Google Analytics custom metric, and we need to set a static value into 1. Now let's hit save. What we have just done is that we are assigning a static value, a value that is fixed, it will not be changed whenever that event is fired. So whenever the add to wish list event is fired, the custom metric, the add to wish list metric, will include the value of 1 for that event. If we have a user that triggered that event for 5 times today, we will get a total of 5 in that custom metric. The same applies if a random group of users have triggered the event. So if you want to see the data for that custom metric, it will take 48 hours for J4 to process the data once these changes are published in Google Tag Manager. So what you can do is going to the exploration section within Google Analytics 4, create a new report. You can add a dimension of event name. And then when adding a metric, you will find the metric, the custom metric that we have just created, the one that you have just created under the custom section. But for me, it's not visible. And I think the reason is I have just created the custom metric without refreshing the page. So let me go back to the exploration section and refresh. Let's create a new report, add matrices, and we have now 2 instead of 1 custom matrices, and we can see the add to wish list metric. So let's add it, and let's add the event name. Double click on each one, so they are added to the report automatically. And if the setup works, what is expected after 48 hours, we would see some event names, and they should be, in this case, the add to wish list event name. And then we can see how many times the event was triggered. And then because the custom metric will store that value. There are many use cases on configuring custom matrices and using them inside Google Analytics. But one use case that I came across recently was actually regarding the add to wish list. So I have a customer, they wanted to see the custom metric inside the report, and also they want to see it beside the other matrices that are native in Google Analytics, like the add to carts, the begin checkout, all of these native matrices. In this scenario, this wouldn't work because that is a custom metric. So we have the add to wish list, and it is considered as custom. Then we have the other pre-built or native matrices inside GA4, like the add to cart, for example. So in this case, if you created a custom report and tried adding the custom metric with the other ones, one of them will not be added because they are not compatible. So one solution that I have applied for that customer, because it was really important to them, is configuring other custom matrices based on the native channels. So for example, I have created one for the add to cart, and I use the custom naming convention at the end of the matrix to avoid any confusion. And then I have configured the checkout, item added to the item added, clicked on a list, item added to the list, and item viewed, and many more. So I have configured all of the native events, and then I have created a report in Google Analytics, and that report looks like that. I can't share the whole report with you guys because it's confidential data, but you get the idea. We have the item viewed in a list custom. So whenever a user views an item in a list, that metric will record that event. And then when the item is clicked, when the item is viewed, and then when the item is added to the wish list, all the way to the purchase. And this was really helpful for that business to make decision based on which product they should restock if it doesn't have any quantity, or even which products that they should advertise more or send coupon codes to these users. That's it. You know now how to create a custom metric, what is a custom metric, and even what is a normal metric, and how to configure them to work through Google Tag Manager. If you have any questions regarding creating any other metric, please make sure to drop them in the comment section so I can get back to you. This is Ahmed, and if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you can like, subscribe, and share the video, as it helps the channel grows. See you in the next video.